Kלים Perek Zayin, Mishnah Zayin. And I warned you, this is going to be a long one. Lots and lots of items in this Mishnah, a long list, and each one has its own little twist. So let's start. We start with the Reish of the Mishnah, which deals with 4 objects, and then we come to the bulk of the Mishnah, dealing with Pshuti Kleit. But the first 4 objects are, says the Mishnah, Hamalkut shel Bakar v'hechosim shaloi. These are leather, little leather patches. Malkut shel Bakar, as Bartanura tells us, this is a leather patch put over the eyes of the cow so that it doesn't look, doesn't see, doesn't get distracted and gets down to the job. Chosim shaloi is a leather muzzle put in front of the animal's mouth so that it doesn't eat. These are obviously clay oil without a base kibble. They're pshute clay oil, and therefore, they, as we can see, the Mishnah says already, they're quite simple, these dinim. Hamadov shel devorim hamanofa. These are also made out of wood or leather. A madov shel devorim is it's some sort of receptacle which one puts in. Bartanura tells us very foul-smelling objects, golol, and the whole point is to make a disgusting fire and smoke. When you want to get the honey out of the beehive, you chase away the bees with this foul-smelling object, which creates smoke, and then you take the honey. Because it's actually not about the Rambam says it just doesn't have a tzuras kli. Manofa is a fan, typical fan you wave in the sun when it's hot. They don't have even a tzuras kli. Their tashmish is undefined. It's very, very difficult to ascribe any element of chashivas to that particular tashmish. Therefore, under all rules, they fail to be a kli tashmish and therefore tahor. Now we come to the main bulk of the Mishnah. The Mishnah starts off with the difference between a kisui shel kufsa and a kisui kamtera. It says kisui shel kufsa tomei, kisui kamtera tahor. By way of introduction, we're dealing with kliates. We know a kliates, in order to be makabel tumah, has to have a base kibble. We've also mentioned before that under certain circumstances, a kliates without a base kibble, known as a pshute kliates, can sometimes also be makabel tumah midrabanan. One of the main cases, which is the ones we're going to be dealing with in this Mishnah, is a pshute kliates. But this pshute kliates is mishamesh, a mishamesh shel odom. That means it's mishamesh another kli, but it's mishamesh that other kli bein b'shas malacha, bein shaloi b'shas malacha. I would ask you to turn to the end of the Mishnah where you can see the klal of the Mishnah. Is that klal? Omer Rabbi Yossi, kol mishamshei mishamshov shel odom, which is this. In other words, we're talking about pshutin. This is a rule which applies only to pshutin kliates. It's a mishamesh of a mishamesh. It's a mishamesh a kleli. B'shas malacha v'shaloi b'shas malacha. In other words, it's mishamesh the kli when the kli is doing its job, and when the kli isn't doing its job. We'll explain that as we do the Mishnah. In such a case, the pshutin kliates is tamid midrabanan. And the Mishnah is starting off giving us a very simple contrast by telling us a kisui is not considered midaraisa to be a base kibble because it's a lid, or may have a cavity in which things can fit in, but it's not made to be makabel. So under the normal rule, midaraisa rules, it's not a base kibble. However, it's this case, it's a pshuta kliates, which is mishamesh the box underneath. So if it's mishamesh the box underneath, both when the box is doing something, i.e. when the box has objects in it, and both when the box is empty, then it's mishamesh mishas malacha ben shaloi b'shas malacha, which is the case of the kisui shel kufsa. It's always on the kufsa, whether the kufsa is got something in it or not. Therefore, the kisui is tomim midrabanan. The kamtera is a chest for clothes. The kisui is only put on when the kamtera has clothes in it, and because the kisui is a pshute kliates, and hasn't got a din of kli kibble, therefore the rule of a pshute kliates being tomim midrabanan doesn't apply here because it's not mishamesh bein mishas malacha bein shaloi b'shas malacha. Now we're going to go on to a long list of things in the Mishnah, and they're all going to be tahor. Let's start the list. Kisui teva, kisui tani. These are pshute kliates. They're lids of boxes, lids of little baskets. again, the pshuta kleitz are not meshamish bein b'shas malacha bein shaloi b'shas malacha, therefore tar. Machbar shel charosh is a vice used by the carpenters. Charosh is a carpenter. You have a vice. It's a pshuta kleitz which holds the wood so that you can work with the wood. It's meshamish the wood, but only b'shas malacha, of course. Therefore, is not mekabel tumah. Hakeses shetachas hateva. The Mefarshim don't really explain this. The Rambam has to say kisei shetachas hateva. This is a sort of a pshuta kleitz in which you put under a box. You want to put your suitcase down. You don't put it on the dirty floor. You put it on this little special kisei, and therefore it's a pshuta kleitz, which is meshamish only b'shas malacha, and therefore is not even tomim midrabanan. Kamrun shalah is the lid of such a teva. You have a big chest. They have a dome-like lid on top. Hasn't got a din of kibble. Is not meshamish mishas malacha ben shaloi b'shas malacha, and therefore is tor iv midrabanan. Angelin shel sefer. Now we come to an area, a list of things known as the tik and nartik group. Very often you'll find tik is a name for a pouch or a wallet or some sort of receptacle in which you fit, for instance, a keli inside. It's a pouch is the best word. Sometimes you find these things are tomei, sometimes they're tor. The ones in these mishnahs are all going to be tor. The basic rule is as follows. If you have a box or a pouch in which you put a kli in, and then you use that pouch to carry that particular kli, that is tomei midaraisa. That's a classic kibble. Whether the pouch is made out of leather or out of wood, you've done it. It's a kli kibble min ha-Torah. We're talking about a pouch which actually doesn't comply with all the rules of being a base kibble. For instance, Chazon Ish says it's got only 4 sides. It just goes to frame round the outside. No back, no front. Or it's got 5 sides, it's got a back, but it only covers on top. You don't actually put the thing inside and walk with it. You just use it to cover it, to protect it from the top. So that's not considered to be a base kibble. In such a case, it's called a pshute kleitz, or pshute kle'or. Then you've got to use the rule, is it meshamish b'shas malacha and shaloi b'shas malacha? And all of these are only meshamish b'shas malacha while using the object. And angelin shel sefer is exactly that. It's a little pouch in which you insert your book, your sefer into it. Beis haneger, beis hamanul, beis hamezuzah are pouches and little containers in which you put in the bolt of a door, the lock. Beis hamezuzah, a little thing you put the mezuzah in. Tik nevolin, tik kinara, same thing. These are bags or cases for the musical instruments of nevel and kinor. Bartanura on the word, for instance, Beis HaMezuzah says metal, but the Mefarshim explain, he's just explaining what is normally meant by a Beis HaMezuzah. Of course, in this case, we're dealing with wood. All these cases are tikim and nartakim, which hold objects. They only cover the object, therefore they're not called a base kibble. They only serve the object b'shas malacha and not shloi b'shas malacha, and therefore fail to be mitame the kelim even midrabanon. The Chazon Ish actually struggles to define the difference, what is meant by the word b'shas malacha and shaloi b'shas malacha. This is a confusing subject. I won't confuse you even more. And the Mishnah is carrying on with some more such objects. Imum is a word used in the Mishnah that means a form, a last. It can also be used as a last. It's a form on which one makes things. So it's a wooden form, and then one shapes the particular kli or garment over this form as you make it. It's a pshuta kleitz, it's meshamash only b'shas malacha, of course it's tahor. Markuf shel zamor. Bartanura tells us this is a kid's or some sort of clown or entertainment object, some sort of horse. It looks like a horse which kids or clowns play with. Others say it's a type of instrument. But again, it's a pshuta kleitz. Revius shel ilias. This one is hardly explained. It's obviously, Ilias is the woman who wails and makes it a hesped at a levaya, and she has an instrument or some sort of object called a revius, which is a block of wood or 2 blocks of wood, like some sort of, Rambam says, it's some sort of castanets to make a noise. Again, it's a pshuta kleitz, and it's not meshamish kelim b'shas malacha shlei b'shas malacha. Ugnugnis ha'oni. Bartanura translates this as the pouch satchel of an oni. And of course, that is Makabel Tumah. It's a classic Klei Oyer, which is Makabel Tumah. So the Chazon Ish says that maybe, he's not even sure, that in the early on the Mishnah, we used the word imum. So he said maybe the word imum is going on this whole list. The imum of a goydle mitznefes, markov shel zamor, vishel elias, gnugnes ha'ani. That means the form on which one shapes and makes the oni satchel, so it's a pshuta kleitz. Smuchais hamita, Bartolo tells us these are pieces of wood which support the bed. Obviously they're pshuta kleitz. They do serve the bed, b'shas melacha and shloi b'shas melacha, and therefore the Chazon Ish is not sure why they're actually in the list of kelim which are tahor. Utufus shel tefillah. Tefillah is a tefillin. Singular is a tefillah. Each box is a tefillah. You make it on a tefus, on a form. Again, pshuta kleitz. Imum shel oises susos. This is the last of the list. Imum is the form of which one forms. Susos, Bartanura tells us, as a word for clothes, as the pasuk in Vaychi v'dam anovim susoi. Harei l'Torah, they're all Torah. And now the Mishnah is going to tell us the klal. Zeh klal. Omar Rabbi Yossi. Kol mishamshei mishamshov shel adam. Remember, with klal refers to pshute kleitz, where it doesn't have a regular base kibble in which something is transported or carried, which means it's got an pshute kleitz. Then the rule is it's metamed midrabanon if it's mishamshei mishamshov shel adam. That means these kelim serve another keli. And it does so, b'shas melacha v'shaloi b'shas melacha. It does so while the keli it is serving is doing its job and while it isn't. In other words, if a lid is serving a box, it's serving the box while the box is empty or while the box is doing its function, is carrying something. Then the lid, the pshuta kleitz, the meshamish of the meshamish is tomei midrabanon. V'chol she'enoi ela b'shas melacha. If the lid, the pshuta kleitz is only meshamish the keli b'shas melacha, then it's tahor midaraisa and midrabanan. Sorry, that was a long one. And Mr. Shem.